All right. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is staying healthy and playing some music, or maybe not, but most importantly, everyone, happy fall. Hope everything is going great. Hope everyone's enjoying the beginning of their October. So, I can't really do a lot of playing continuo with other people, so I kind of just thought I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to play continuo at you guys. And we're going to talk about all the different bits and bobbles, and kind of we'll go through some figured bass and go through some stuff and kind of, you know, have like a little Bob Ross moment, but with bass lines. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want a Bob Ross moment with bass lines? So anyways, I'd like to show you guys this cool edition that I found that we're going to be playing out of. All right, this is Telemann Singe Spiel und Generalbassübungen. You know, the classic German diction right there. And this is a really cool book of exercises that have been realized actually by Telemann himself, and then he talks about it with a little editorial section. I just like to do a quick shout out here, guys. Derek Remes, you can find this right here. All right, you can find that right there. And this edition was free, which is incredible. I mean, awesome stuff. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this just for general practicing, or general bass, right? So anyways, we are going to be playing out of this edition for today. So I thought that we would start up with a nice piece called Harsh Judge. Yes, all right, text by Anonymous. We can see here that is Telemann, and you can see this in action. We have our line down here, the bass line with all the figures and all the other stuff. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? And then we have this line right here, which is actually the realization that Telemann wrote. And then we have all this stuff down here, you know, all this, and that is in reference to this big block of text down here. So you'll notice there's letters that correspond to numbers and stuff like that. And it's, I mean, this is helpful if you're a harpsichord player, but I am not a harpsichord player, as probably most of my classmates remember. So we're not going to be paying attention to that. We are going to be paying attention to all this good stuff. All right. So I thought, let's just play through it. You know, let's see how it sounds. Let's see what the vibe is. It's in 2 flats. You know, we might have a couple of blue notes, but hey, whatever. Let's see how this sounds. Got some bits and got some bobs. All right, so let's just talk about this, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about my approach and how maybe you should think about playing this. I think a key thing to remember is that if you're playing continuo, you just kind of have to be okay with like changing your opinions on a dime. It doesn't really matter what your opinion is. It matters what whoever you're playing with his opinion is. And so if they ask you to change something, then you theoretically should be able to actually meaningfully change the approach that you're doing. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but all right, anyways, let's get right into it here. So we just start off, and I'm gonna say, okay, title, Harsh Judge. We're in 2 flats. It sounded kind of grumpy to me, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily like angry. It's not necessarily like aggressive. It's more just grumpy, okay? So that in mind, a more angry version of this, if the whatever that is, whatever, maybe this is a soprano, I don't know. If they wanted to be really upset about this, you know, you would probably want to kind of put the weight in there a bit more, make it a bit more, make everything a little shorter, you know, make everything a bit more like, I'm forgetting the word for that, but like this, you guys know what I mean, right? You guys know what I mean. So, if this was an angry version, you'd probably want to start it more, right, but without all the, so. Notice how it's a bit more lively, and it has a bit more anger in there, you know what I mean? But I think this one is just kind of grumpy, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, so we want more of like a, so now technically what that means is we're going to start kind of somewhere around here, we're going to go and see how we're going to kick that note, and we're going to pull that one out of the texture, because what we want is right? We don't want, because we want that C to really come out, right? We want the C and the B natural to be the two links here, and everything else in between is just going to kind of be whatever. So if you start from the beginning, what we want is a nice, and if we start here, you notice what I'm doing, and what I like to do here, and this is something that I've found very helpful, is if you want the pickup to be lighter, just start a little bit farther away, and then just come into the frog on the time when you want the other part. So you go, right? So you dynamics, they're already taken care of, okay? So now let's look at this next part. With the bow here, we want to do maybe, I don't know. So I was thinking about this part, and we're looking at this next section here. Let me just switch to the music so we can kind of just talk about it. So we have this kind of grumpy part in the beginning, and then this part, because it suddenly goes to major mode, I am inclined to just like play this really long, okay? Or make it a bit more resonant, maybe is the right word. You know, long is a very dangerous word, right? Because we don't want this to all be slurred. We don't want like this huge slur here like that. But instead, what we want is to just kind of keep this and then keep the resonance up, okay? So let's just think about that. Let's see how that sounds. Let's play around with a couple different resonance. So we have that's okay, maybe. Cool. So you'll notice here what I'm playing with is I am playing with just how much core I'm adding into this note. So let's just say we want this to be a bit more full-bodied. Maybe people feel like they need that texture there to keep that part in tune. So what I'd imagine with that, what I would advise for that, I should say, is we are going to get a little bit closer to the bridge. And we're going to go, you'll notice how those notes are staying very present in the texture, and we're getting, so every note is more or less equal in the sort of hierarchy of notes, okay? I mean, of course they're not, because we're adding some phrasing in, but the core is going to be equal across the board. So let's just try this now, and let's do like kind of a light and fluffy version, right? We're gonna go, now look at how high I got on that. Wow, it's kind of weird to like look at the screen and see how high I go up. Don't show my modern students, please. Okay, so what I did with that though was we really backed off of the core, and then you'll notice those last two notes, I kind of was doing this thing up here at the tip. So let's just do that again. We have, so it's like you start the note and then you kind of go away from it, but you'll notice how I'm keeping the bow moving, and actually it's still on the string relatively. And so what that does is it gets this cool effect, because I'm going to do that again, and I'm just going to lift the string. I'm going to lift the bow off the string. You'll notice, in order to lift it, it just creates a very different interaction with the string. And what I want is wham, wham, wham. I don't want bop, bop, bop. Okay, so when we want wham, 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 very technical terms here, guys. So we go, you'll notice how it creates just this little tiny link in between the notes. And that's important, okay? That'll read to the audience, and it'll read to your group members. They will hear that and think, oh, hey, this part's supposed to be loud, okay? I mean, not loud. This part's supposed to be long, okay? So we have, now, what if they want this to be sort of a more angry texture. Well, what that would mean is we're going to just sort of go away from that. We're going to shorten everything up. We're going to clip it a little bit. So we're going to go. All right. So this is something I picked up from Phoebe. This is a great stroke to use, but use it with great caution because it's very present. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to clip everything nice and short, and we're going to go. Notice how I'm keeping this one closer. All right, it's like a chop almost. So you're going to get really nice up here. What you're going to do is you're going to relax everything. You're just going to actually relax everything, and what you're going to do is using your fingers kind of and a little bit of bow motion, you're just going to smack the string. All right, so that was too much. There we go. So this stroke is very useful to create energy without creating noise. So we go instead of, right, which is kind of what that ultimately would be. But you'll notice the other one has a similar energy but doesn't have that noise on those last two notes. So we have, and you notice how it pushes you right into that last note. So I would recommend playing around with that. Just again, use sparingly. Okay, use sparingly. All right, that's the batuta stroke. I got called out on it a couple times. I got really excited. I was all getting in there. You know, it's like somebody was like, "Hey, you need to chill." I was like, "Okay, you're right. I need to chill." So let's move on here to the next part. We have. So of course that's not the real notes, but that's kind of what's going on. And you'll notice it starts the same, and then we're going to turn it on its head. Okay, so let's look at that. We have. So you'll notice that weird little hooking thing that I'm talking about, where I'm keeping the bow on the string, but it's very light, and I'm really just creating that kind of texture. That's coming into play here a lot. So we have the, especially that part, if you're looking at this measure, 6 right here. This thing, we have a nice big down bow here, and then we have a nice little thing here, but we don't want to put a comma. We don't want this to be, you know, right? We don't want that. What we want is, we actually want it to be a nice, you'll notice, instead of a comma there, we want to connect them, right? But we don't want to slur it. We don't want it to be a, right? Because that sounds terrible. So what we want to do is we're actually going to do our little skate thing. We're going to go out to the tip. Oh. All right, and then we're just going to use our fingers just a bit there at the tip. You'll notice how I'm popping that note a little bit, but it's like a whoo. So we want to go. So all right, so you'll notice what I did was, instead of, it's a little bit less core here, and then the end here, I would say pretty much from here to here is going to be on the string, but no weight. So we go, all right, you can do a nice little mezzo di voce there if you want, if you're feeling cool. So we have the, so I would say go to the D there, okay? And you'll notice what I did with my bow hand. I go, I really pop this one out, less here, a little old school mezzo di voce action at the tail end of this, okay? So we have a, notice how it's kind of like a fake hemiola. Now let's just play it. I'm going to line it up on the downbeats. That sounds cool too. I like that. I like that as well. So you got two options if they kind of don't want you to, but if you notice here in the music, I would just say there's a trill on that "and" there, right here. Nice big old trill. And so I would say that this actually should go to that note because we have that trill over there, and you know, I just think that that sounds a little cleaner. So anyways, let's move on to the next part, which is the hard part, right? So we have. Okay, we have some very tricky stuff here. It doesn't lay kind of correctly. I would say for this kind of beginning, so let's just talk about that. We're going to talk about these shooby doobies, okay? So you'll notice you're presented with 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and the feeling of this piece is not very strict to me. So I mean, if you were playing this more angry, this would be more strict. So I would expect to hear 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. No tripletizing, no inegal, whatever. Okay, ooh, I said the I word, sorry. But I don't think that this is that strict. I just think it's more groovy. You know, it's got a little bit more zhuzh in there. And so you'll notice instead of those being so strict, the bump, ba-bump, ba-bump, I kind of think that they're a little bit more of a triplet action. So we have more of a right, bum, be-deem, ba-dim, ba-dum. Because what we're doing is we're kind of pointing our finger at this point. It's like dun 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 dun. Okay, so let's start a little bit before that. We have and that's where I snap it right back into the texture. If you'll notice, we have a nice thing here. We have this A flat to the D flat right here, right? And so we can use that as all of a sudden we go the right, and we snap it right back into our angry texture, right? We have our little angry dude, all right? So, great. We have that. Now, looking forward, all of a sudden though, this part, all this stuff doesn't really line up. Everything from here on, it doesn't really line up, okay? So, I'm thinking we're going to take a little bit of time and just talk about this whole section right there. So, this one's tricky. So, you're going to think hemiolas. We're going to think out of the box with this. Okay, so we're going to go. All right, so that's my version. Now let's change it up. Okay, so they want it to be a little bit less hemiola-like. So let's aim at downbeats and bar lines. We have a little bit more settled, right? Even though I didn't settle on the right place to start with that passage, it was a bit more settled, okay? So let's go from a little bit before that, and I'm just gonna kind of play it one more time, just to kind of get a feel for it. I'm gonna try and change it, and we'll see what happens. We have. All right, so let's change that now. I'm just gonna do something completely different. I hated it. I don't like that. It sounds too booba dooba jooba jooba. All right, let's try it again. No, that sounded kind of weak. You'll notice I was going more for the F natural, or I mean the E flat in the beginning of that little passage. So I think we're gonna settle with mine. I'm sorry, because I like mine, and also I just think that doing it different ways, it sounds a little lame. So here's like the least lame way of playing this kind of hard passage. We have. All right, so we're gonna talk challenges here. We have over here. We go. So we have a blah blah blah, and then we're out here, and then we're gonna go building suspense, right? And a little hop there. We have a, and then this one I want to attack, and then I like to add a little verve on that because, right, we get a little vibrato in there. Ooh, say the I word and the V word today. All All right, we're just going to talk about these last 3 notes really quick. This is a bow hand technique, which you do not want to do, and what most people will just do on cadences, and this is just a bad habit, and I do this a lot. If I'm like tired, I'm not paying attention, and it's something I just have to keep reminding myself as well. So that's why I'm pointing this out. These last 3 notes right here, we have 1, 1, 1. Okay, so if we think about that, what you want to play is 1, 2, 3, or like this G here is like so easy to kick and make it just ruin the texture of this. So we have, and then you have to get that C and not crack the note like I just did, okay? So what you want is, now I'm just gonna show you how easy it is to pop that note out of the texture. We have, that sounded like its own note right there, right? We want 1, 2, 3, and you'll notice I'm using our technique here, and we're gonna just kiss that note just a little bit, just a little, right? So we want, instead, because the G is just, it's gonna ring. It's gonna have its own character no matter what we do. So we go, and notice how instead of taking the volume away, what I'm doing is I'm taking the body away from that note. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a texture where it's more body, a little bit less body, that kind of creates a little bit of shape, and then finishing it out with a nice classic, you know, if we want to imagine that we're in Holland in the 60s, right? We want to go something gross like that, okay? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to go like this. We're going to go, notice how I'm ending the note. I'm giving it that nice resonant tail. So that is a very important technique to remember, this whole like keeping the bow on the string thing, in terms of when you're playing like with a harpsichord or something like that, you're gonna have to think a little bit differently. Sometimes using the space like that, like taking advantage of the space, it sort of interferes with what the harpsichordist is trying to do, or it makes it sound a little too thick. And so in that case, if you're playing this with, you know, a really busy harpsichord player that wanted to shove as many notes into this as possible, violinist or soprano is saying, you know, guys, this is too loud for me. Then what you'd want to do is you'd want to go. Notice how I'm still taking advantage of those, but I shortened the actual note itself, and then I replaced that note with a whole bunch of resonance, right? And so let's just take a look at that. We go. Now, if I was playing this by myself, that might be kind of weak, which is why me by myself, I'm gonna go. Notice how I'm creating all this energy, but if you're playing with a harpsichord player or something, you know, they're all going. So you know, you're gonna be like there's already tons of resonance going on behind you. You don't have to worry about that. All right. Well, thank you for listening to my little babble here about continuo music. I think I'm going to try and keep doing these, just, you know, because why not? I think it's good for me too. It kind of makes me think about what I'm going to say before I say it. And, you know, if you made it this far, just congratulations for everybody. I think we've all earned a round of applause. So I'll see you in the next video.